What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Tuesday. Not a whole heck of a lot of news to talk about, but I did want to jump on and see what's on the minds of Packers fans as I prepare to jump on a plane and get the heck out of Dodge. That's right, I'm on vacation as of tomorrow, so I thought I'd say adieu with a final Facebook Live before I make the flight. The Packers, obviously, OTAs in full swing. We are not privy to most of them. However, we have our next public viewing on Thursday and then again on Monday. As I said, I won't be around for those, but make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest on them. Tom Silverstein, Michael Cohen, Ryan Wood, Pete Doherty, those guys will be all over it. Make sure you're following all their stuff. The Mercedes Lewis signing became official, hit the transaction wire today. I know the Packers had announced it on Friday, but it is now officially official. And Michael starts us off with Devontae cracked the top 100. Last year he was player 101. This year he is number 45 and climbing. Interesting, I saw some banter online earlier this week about Davante Adams and other number one wide receivers. It's interesting. He's not really perceived as a traditional number one, but he certainly is in Green Bay now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think his numbers last year, throughout having, not only the best quarterback in the game, but one of the worst, shows. His numbers didn't take a dip. He was still by far and away the go-to guy in this offense, and I think he really solidified himself in the minds of his co-workers, as he called them, around the NFL. Andrew, thank you very much. It's very nice of you to say. James, hello. Thanks for jumping on with us. Emilio, good day. How are you? Dan, hello. Thanks for joining. Any word on the Lewis contract? No numbers yet, Julia. Not really surprising given the holiday weekend, but I will say the fact that the numbers when he signed were not trumpeted in any way, shape, or form pretty much lets you know that it's a team-friendly deal. If it was any kind of number of significance, you can bet his agent would have been on the phone or a group text with a bunch of reporters getting at least the basic framework of the deal out there. So the fact that that has remained under wraps lets you know that it's most likely a very team-friendly contract. Phil, it's very nice of you to say. Do you think we need more linebackers? Isaiah, that's a good question. Maybe off the ball. It's hard to say without really knowing what they have in Oren Burks, but yeah, I think maybe one off the ball, but outside, I really want to see what they have in Vince Beagle and Reggie Gilbert before we go about saying they need to stock up there, and obviously they're going to know better than anybody what they have out there. So I know it's interesting. I know Michael Kendricks is visiting the Minnesota Vikings today. He's also got visits lined up with a couple other teams, not the Packers. So, I thought maybe the Packers might show some interest there, but apparently they think they're all set. Oh, very nice of you to say. Thanks very much. Packers defense leans on defensive end to rest the outside linebackers. I'm not sure what you're saying there, especially in a 3-4. They eat up lots of blocks, and they definitely try to penetrate, depending on the call and the coverage and etc. The gaps are filled by both the outside linebackers and the defensive ends in a 3-4. Now there'll be four-man fronts where Nick Perry has to maybe do a little bit more work, especially against the run, but traditionally no one's really resting. Is tight end Lewis a lock to make the 53? Well, Ian, if he plays up to the level he was playing last year, I would say yes. That's no guarantee. You never know, especially a guy getting up there in age. The wheels can come off at any moment. But, he's as close to a lock as I think you could possibly say for any free agent acquisition. Demarius going to be buying me a jersey. Yeah, that was an interesting tweet he sent out. If you haven't checked it out, it's at PackersNews.com. Demarius Randall tweeting out last night that if the Cleveland Cavaliers win the NBA Finals, he will buy everyone who retweets the specific tweet a jersey. So he's definitely pulling for the Warriors there. Why do people hate on Cobb? He's a soldier in the middle and consistent. I would agree with the first part. The second part is where I think the disagreement comes in with people saying that Cobb hasn't been consistent when it comes to his production. Now, I'm with you. I think he's done everything asked of him, and he can't control, the quarterback and getting thrown the football. Tape shows him getting open plenty. I think, like you say, he does a lot of great work over the middle, does lots of nitty-gritty stuff that maybe goes unrecognized and unappreciated. I think he will see an uptick in production this year. I don't think he's ever going to get back to the level we saw in heading into 2014, which netted him the big contract. But I do think you will see a little more production this season. What up, Scotland? Thanks for joining us. I'll be in England tomorrow. Crazy how that works. No one is going to be able to match up in the red zone this year with the Packers. I tend to agree. It's going to be a nightmare for defensive coordinators, especially if everyone stays healthy. Adams, Lewis, Graham, Cobb, the running game, that's a lot to worry about. Who wins kick returner? Justin, I gotta think Jair Alexander is the leader in the clubhouse, at least early on. We'll see. I know he's doing punts early, but I have to think, now that Janis is gone and Davis has proven a hit and miss prospect there, I think Jair Alexander will be given the opportunity, and I think he'll run with it. Pardon the phrase. Rookie wide receiver with the biggest impact? Chris, I have no way of letting you know that, or even hazarding a guess until we see these guys in pads in camp. I've talked about this here before. I talked about it on my podcast. I know this time of year everyone's desperate for every morsel of information that they can get. There's some things you just have no way of knowing. We can glean little bits of info here and there in OTAs and minicamp, but you can't really know anything about, especially the young guys, the first and second year guys, until we get the pads on. The rubber meets the road and they go up against NFL level competition. So ask me again, say a couple weeks into camp. AP, Tommy, not going to happen. I appreciate the fervor, though, and the many exclamation points. All of them. Maybe, Jason. You never know. When does camp start again? July 26th. The players will arrive. What do you call that thing? The shareholders meeting. It was in prime time for the first time ever in its existence. It's going to be in the evening. But always remember, the first 2 days of camp are padless. They do not put the pads on until day 3. That is because of the collective bargaining agreement. So if you want to come out, see some hitting, see some guys playing what looks like actual NFL football, wait until the 3rd day. Christopher, have I seen Solo yet? I've seen it 3 times. I loved it. Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Wildly enthusiastic thumbs up. We don't need AP. I tend to agree. You miss Jordy, Tommy. How can you miss Jordy? They haven't played a game yet. I understand Jordy did a lot throughout his tenure as a Green Bay Packer, but let them play a game first before you start missing him. Well, the Packers have a deep passing game. Seems like they've switched to quick throws recently. Yeah, a big part of that was because of the fact that they couldn't run the ball. That's not the only reason. That's an incredible simplification, but a big part of it is because teams have been able to sit back in a cover 2 shell, either 2-man or traditional cover 2, and taken away a lot of the deep stuff that the Packers like to run. That hasn't stopped Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers from trying on occasion, but they've been much more productive, as you indicate, working underneath, doing much more traditional West Coast offense type stuff, which is horizontal in nature rather than vertical. Now that said, with the running game that they found last year, especially some of the power stuff, that could potentially open things up downfield for Rodgers and his receivers. So watch this space. Do the Packers make moves at edge after Matthews' comments about depth? No. They're not going to react to anything that gets said in the locker room, much like Aaron Rodgers voicing his opinion about Jordy Nelson. Clay Matthews is obviously allowed to have an opinion. He's even allowed to express it, even though the Packers may not enjoy it, but they're not going to react to it. His job is to go get the quarterback. Their job is to provide the players. And if anything, I'll be interested to see what kind of motivation it maybe brings to guys like Vince Beagle and Reggie Gilbert. I love Jair Alexander's confidence, something the defense really needs. I tend to agree. Alexander is a demonstrative guy. He has got the shortest memory of any college corner coming out this year that I could see. I mean, a guy who will talk after every single play, no matter if he's beat or not, whether he shuts the guy down or not. He's going to talk, and he's going to let the guy know he's right there, and he's coming back after him. An abundance of confidence. There's no doubt about that. Who will be left tackle behind Bakhtiari? Good question, Randy. I tend to think they'll probably, if something were to happen to Bakhtiari, they'd probably push Taylor out to left tackle again. They got through a couple games with him out there, and he played pretty well. Now, obviously, he's not a tackle by trade, but they can get through a game with him, and they won a couple games with him last year. They could probably do it again. Now, obviously, if Jason Spriggs is healthy, they'll try him out there, but I don't see that happening on a long-term basis. I think Spriggs is on his last legs, pardon the expression. He's coming back from injury. But we'll see. I'm sure they'll run a couple guys out there, maybe even Cole Madison, the rookie. But I tend to think push came to shove, they needed to do something in a game, or even dealing with the Bakhtiari injury long term. I think you'd see Taylor kind of take that step out. Which tight end will have a breakout year, Jimmy Graham or Mercedes Lewis? Oh, good question. If you're talking pure production, if you're looking for fantasy production, I think it's got to be Jimmy Graham. Graham's big, fast guy who can get downfield. Lewis is still, can still offer stuff in the passing game, but he's not going to be their number one option. Now, maybe teams start rolling to Graham, and that opens things up for Lewis in two tight end sets, but Graham will be the dynamic pass catcher. I don't think there's any doubt about that. How many years does Crosby have left? 4 or 5? Good question, John. I'd say 3 or 4, probably more so than 4 or 5, but that's just a quibble. I mean, look how long Vinatieri's stuck around, so who knows? Jake Ryan or Oren Burks, who will win the second spot? That's going to be one of the battles of camp. There's no doubt about it. Why not keep Richard? If you're talking to Richard Rodgers, because every one of their tight ends now, all 3 of them, are much better than Richard Rodgers. Rodgers had great hands. He's assignment sure, etc. It's all well and good, but they have definitely upgraded at that position. Trade Cobb for a linebacker. They don't have anyone else who could do what he does in the offense. They're not going to go trade him, other than maybe Montgomery, who hasn't been able to stay on the field and is now a running back. And even before you get to all of that, no one's trading for Cobb's contract. So, yeah, no one's trading for Cobb, and they're not trading Cobb. Do you like Jimmy Graham? Andrew, I've never met him, so I couldn't tell you. Safety Reed to the Packers. Rich, I tend to doubt it. I think the Packers like the depth they have at the safety position. Maybe if there's an injury in camp, and which is how I tend to think Reed will end up getting signed, but not at this time. I think they'll look and see what, let OTAs and minicamp play out, and unless there's an injury there, I don't see that happening. We are not getting rid of Randall Cobb, man. Hey, man, I agree. That's what I keep saying. People just aren't listening, I guess. Are the Packers going to develop a young tight end in the near future? Luke, man, search me. I said all offseason they needed to draft one this year, and they didn't. So, hey, man. I've been saying it for years. There have been really talented guys coming out. It's like the new hot position in college coming into the NFL. The Packers have totally ignored it in the draft. So, and I know they will say that's just how it worked out. But, at some point, 3-4 years in a row, you got to make it work out. Go get one of those guys instead of having to, go dive into the free agent pool every year. But that's just me. Clearly, they disagree. What do they have to do to get more outside rush? Win more one-on-ones. There's not going to be any huge schematic thing that's going to free that stuff up. It's going to have to be guys like Gilbert and Beagle and Matthews and Perry winning some one-on-one battles on 3rd and long, basically. Play calling duties for 2018? Mike McCarthy. Is Kendrick still available? Would upgrade linebackers for sure. He is available, but he is visiting the Vikings today, and then he has 2 visits set up after that, neither of which are the Packers. Any surprise cuts you foresee? Nothing too surprising, Austin. Obviously, if I could see it coming, it's not a surprise, etc. With that caveat out there, I would say it wouldn't be a surprise, but I think Brian Bulaga is still a possibility, depending on his recovery, and maybe Jake Ryan. I think those are the two that you should look at. Junior Gillette, Barwin, Marcus, I doubt it on either of those guys, especially Junior Gillette. Way too many off-field concerns there. Maybe Barwin, but, you know, they had a chance. Barwin was out there for a long time last year, too, and they didn't take a look. So if they weren't going to look last year, I doubt a year more of, you know, age and wear and tear on the body is going to make them more interested. How do you feel about this year's draft, Thomas? I don't feel anything. It's incomplete. Let's see what they do on the field. I know draft grades are fun and instant reaction is the name of the game, but, you know, until we see these guys on a football field with pads on against NFL level competition, we can't even begin to start to kind of take stock of what they have. Now, if these guys come out and they start playing well or poorly, I'll talk about it and I'll point out things I like and things I don't, but until we get to that point, there's not much to say about these guys. They're running around in shorts and helmets, and they're learning the offense and the defense. That's about all we know. Did you say the Kendricks is visiting the Packers after the Vikings? No. He's visiting two other teams, neither of which are the Packers. Trade Hundley for a pizza and a six-pack of the IPA? No, but that's about what I'm about to do. I'm going to trade this chat for a six-pack because I got to go. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't get your questions. They do come by rather quickly, but make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. My latest podcast is up, talking about a bunch of stuff there. And guys have tons of great content at PackersNews.com. Make sure you're checking all of that out. Like I said, the next open OTA practice is Thursday. We'll have that covered for you. The next one after that is Monday. I will be back next Friday. And I'll be back in the saddle, tweeting and Facebook Living and all the other niceties that you guys have come to expect from me. But in the meantime, I am unplugging. I'm going to be in London with my wife, having a good time, not thinking about the Green Bay Packers. Thanks a lot, everyone. Hope you have a great night. I'll talk to you next week.